Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Olo and this is yet another episode of things you didn't know in Elden Ring. Incredibly, there's some cool details today that I didn't know, including one to do with a bows related talisman, but yeah, we'll get into it. This is episode 19. We would not make it this far without you guys in the comments, giving me suggestions and so on, so a huge thank you for all the support and help with the series. But with that said, let's start the episode. Alright, to kick us off with today's episode, I have one that's using a staff and a seal, because we're talking about chain casting. Back in 1.05, referred to in the patch notes as unintended motions, well, they were fixed. It's the simple ability to take one cast and speed it up, cutting out the animation or animation cancelling. That leads to the spell or incantation coming out quicker, and obviously that's a good thing. Apparently, there's been multiple patches and multiple changes where they've tried to address this and fix it and change it, and what they've come up with now feels a lot more legitimate and fair to me, so let's just go over it. Apparently, according to Cam Rose in the comments, you can still do this, and that's what got me on this trail, so thanks, Cam. Basically, to chain cast these days, you just need to do a quick incantation or spell. It could be a Swift Glintstone Shard or the Carrion Slicer, or incantations-wise, we've got Catch Flame, we've got Bestial Sling. These are obviously really quick spells. Take the Theodoric's Magma here. Obviously, it's quite a long cast, that. But if I do one of these fast casts and then cast the magma, well, it'll be even faster. Except you can't do it from the ground specifically like I just tried to. So if I do Bestial Sling from the air, then do the magma, notice how much faster that actually is. It's half the speed. Or rather half the time to actually cast the spell. I was intrigued by this and I wanted to learn why is it working like this? And actually there's some very reasonable logic to it. You see, chain casting is the concept of casting a spell multiple times, and follow-up casts are actually faster. You might have noticed this in many different spells. The magma is a great example. We have the first cast, which is a wind up and really slow, and the second cast, which is obviously way faster. Many spells have this chain casting effect associated with it. Another example would be Home Bolt, one of the best incantations in PvP. It's insane. So the first cast, a bit slow, right? But the second, the third, and so on, these are obviously way faster and take about half the time to do. So if I do the first spell by jumping and casting it, and then follow it up, you see how much faster that actually is. And it's very logical. We're just casting a quick spell and then following it up with another, basically replacing the long animation of the first spell and just getting to that second spell, that chain cast, much quicker, more effectively. It's weird that we have to do it from the air, since this does feel a lot more legitimate, like I said, like it's intended to work like this. But it's important to know, if you are using spells or incantations, there are many chain cast spells that are very strong and slow animations that you can speed up by doing this. But yeah, really cool detail, very important to know, and hopefully it helps you. We're back again now for a merchant featured thing, because as it turns out, they have even more cut content beyond just the cut storyline for Calais here. Apparently merchants use their musical thing, that instrument, whatever it is. Sometimes you hear them playing. Well, apparently they were originally planned or thought to have had actual attacks using music. From this tweet I saw today actually from Ren Jingles or Roden on Twitter, he showed a reworking of that initial idea. As you can see, they basically are creating auras by playing different little short songs. And it's really interesting because these are sound files I've not really heard in game before. You can see that they have different colors based on a different song and different auras emanating from it, like based on the different visual effects. Now, none of them look like direct attacks. They are described as attacks by Roden, but I could see them as, say, being buffs to, say, you, or if you're allied with the merchant, or his allies, whatever, himself, or debuffs to the enemies that are attacking him after he plays the song. Maybe the green one triggers poison on those nearby, that kind of thing. None of them look like explosive, negative, damaging attacks. They look more passive effects to me. Still, it's a really cool concept, and it's very interesting to hear those little songs, those little tunes played on the instrument that were never used in game. In the replies of that chain, there's a lot of people kind of complaining that there's so much cut content for this game, so many cool ideas that were just never fleshed out. Personally, I don't like to prescribe to that kind of negative thinking. This is a massive game, and it's cool to see that they had even more ideas, but perhaps there just weren't time to implement them all, or they weren't all that important. Next up, one that's surprisingly still in game and kind of memed on from the start of the launch of this game, when people were complaining that there's no way to pause the game and they're having to full quit out about if they need to take a small break and step away for a moment. Well, there is actually a pause button in Elden Ring, and you can access it in a few ways. Like, say, if I open up the map and press the help button from here, if I access the menu explanation while this map menu, or rather this specific description, is up, the whole game is paused. So we can still hear ambient sounds, but I am completely safe, nothing can attack me, and I can do this kind of whenever. Obviously, I can't open my map whenever, though, if I'm in the middle of combat. You know, that's not going to work. But, of course, you can still open, say, your equipment menu, press the help button, go to the menu explanation, and now we got this equipment menu description. But, again, the game is paused while we're looking at this. I don't really know why this is a feature, and it's still in the game and it still works this way. But to truly show that, yeah, this pauses the game and does work, in the middle of combat, I'm going to have all these guys on me, I'm going to press the help button, open the menu explanation, and now all of their sounds have stopped because they're no longer chasing me. They're no longer doing anything. The game is completely paused and I'm completely safe. This comes from Iron Pineapple a few months back, like I mentioned, and yeah, impressively, it's still a thing you can do even now, all the way in 1.06. So why would you use this? Like I said, I think it's if you were to leave the game for a moment, maybe you need to just go to the toilet or something, I don't know. You can just open this menu up and then come back safe and sound, knowing that everything is paused while you're gone. Instead of, you know, fully quitting out of the game every single time you need to, which is really nice to be able to do that. And it'll save you, I don't know, 30 seconds, whole minutes each time you play and maybe have to go AFK for a bit. Still, it's nice to be able to pause the game, and it's important to know how if you need to. For this next one, I have one from Josh who's telling me about a bit of a strange detail, a strange mechanic that you can do with a few weapons, specifically the ring finger here. As strange of a weapon as it is, a small little lore detail, I actually think it's a finger, or like an old finger of potentially the current form of Rykard, rather than one of those magical fingers that we find, say, in Carrier Manor. There's a theory about that from Rykard's boss room, which is here, and as you progress through it, you find yourself kind of under this area, which is right next to the Windham Catacombs, where you find this finger. But besides that interesting little lore theory, there is an interesting mechanic that's best displayed with this Ash of War, the Claw Flick, which does this hilarious sort of upwards flick, but most importantly, changes it to a giant hand. Apparently with this weapon you can turn on a feature, and for some reason you can just do this. Just turn around completely, free aiming the attack, whatever direction you want, while also being auto-locked onto a target. Many weapons cannot do this, but apparently this is one of the weapons that can. Yeah, I guess it's kind of useful. Maybe in a multi-target situation where you're locking onto something, trying to keep focus on something, something's coming up behind you, give it a quick flick, and there you go. But it's done by turning it on in the options. If you turn on manual attack aiming, you have more control over your attacks, which direction they're going, even if you're currently locked on. It doesn't work on everything. Like, I can't free aim this and say the follow-up, I can't free aim that, it just goes where it goes. Then with the bloody slash, same thing. I can't turn it, even though I've got that mode on. So I'm not sure how many weapons actually benefit from that strange setting in the menu, but it's interesting to see this one at least as a good example of it. For our next one, we have a kind of weird one that I've been wondering about since before the game released. You see, I played in the network test, and I swear to God, I remember being able to ride wild horses. So of course we had Torrent that we could ride, but there's also other horses in the game, such as this one, rode by the Caden mercenaries, the sellswords. And as you likely know, you can go over and you can attack them. And I can kill that horse accidentally. Hopefully it's something I won't do now, but of course I can kill the horse as well as the Caden swordsman. Let's try and parry the swordsman to get him off the horse, like so. And then I should be able to carefully, precisely take out the Caden swordsman, and then we have the horse. So, Torrent's nowhere about, we have a horse right here, and I can't mount it. Something I swear, I feel like I've gone mad, honestly, when I think about it. I swear I rode one of these in the network test. And so when the game released, and I had a scenario just like this very early in the first few days, I was surprised to find that I can't ride the wild horse. What's interesting about this horse is how it's a bit chunkier than Torrent. It's literally a bigger horse, and, well, Torrent's no normal horse anyway, kind of like a strange goat thing with antlers. It's a shame because the variety of being able to ride different mounts would be cool. Imagine if you could tame one and run it as your normal mount instead of Torrent. Of course, those aren't the only types of horses. There are more horses in this game than just those wild ones by the Caden swordsman. We have these riders here, the Lindell Knights, and their armored horse. They're also much bigger than Torrent, so perhaps that's the reasoning as to why we can't ride them. However, a little while back, the YouTuber Sekiro Doobie, who I mentioned in a recent episode, found that you can ride them in Elden Ring. There was a interaction where you could access the mounting with them. So maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe you could actually do it in Elden Ring in the network test. What's sad about the fact that we can't do it is the potential of maidenless runs, where you don't have to enter that accord with Melina. You could get in Limgrave one of those wild horses and then just keep it. Probably wouldn't be easy since you can't just summon it from nowhere, but you could bring it with you, and that would allow for challenge runs, maidenless runs, which are a thing. Although to my understanding, when my friend Shrad attempted it, he was walled at the gates of Lindell because you need a maiden to get through. But yeah, it's a shame that mounting wild horses isn't a thing. It would have been a neat little detail, a neat little feature. So I wonder why they removed it. And that brings us to our final thing of the episode, which is to do with a talisman that has nothing to do with what I'm about to do. So we have Bestial Sling here, which is an incantation. We all know it. It's like the pocket sand kind of ability, you know, great in PvP. And then we have the Rock Sling, which is going to send out these three sort of gravity style rocks. What if we could make these two abilities, and honestly others as well, even better, with a talisman, like I said, that has nothing to do with that? The Arrow Reach talisman is, you would think, nothing to do with this. Increase the bow effective range. It's just about arrows, about bows, increases the effective range of bows. For some reason, with certain incantations, seemingly the physical ones, it's increasing their range. So with the Rock Sling, I can get basically this whole kind of tile, this distance of the tile. It goes from being a shotgun to, what would you call that, a submachine gun? Sure, why not? It's a submachine gun now. And then we have the Rock Sling. Now, this went 2 tiles, so we shot it, and it went all the way over here and stopped at this point. Now, with that increased range talisman, let's see if we can get it a little bit further. So we get 1 tile, 2 tiles. 1 actually went further than 3 tiles there. That's pretty incredible, especially for this incantation. Like I said, Rock Sling's really good, especially early game, and especially because it can stagger the big enemies. Since you can make that better, that's great, but then say with Bestial Sling, you know, you're going to be chipping people out, you're going to be staggering them in PvP, it's obviously still in the meta today. The fact that you can make one of the meta incantations stronger, and I didn't know about that until very recently, that's pretty incredible and very useful to know. And what's great about this is, yeah, Arrow's Reach Talisman, it's another talisman you can get really early in the game, so a new playthrough or whatever, you can get that early and enhance what you're running, especially if it's got that physical weight, very early. But that is indeed the episode. I hope you enjoyed that or learned something interesting or useful. As always, if you like the series and want to see it keep going, you can like the video, but more importantly, if you have a suggestion, a tip, something that you think most people don't know or I don't know, then let me know in the comments. It will really, really help. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.